This is UMass basketball.
I know this. I'm the most animated coach that you've probably ever seen in my team.
Thompson in the front court. Thompson will lay it in. And one. Hey, he's just being Frank.
And that is right. Just Being Frank, episode 2, coming at you from the Champion Center here in Amherst, Massachusetts. My name's Jay Burnham, alongside head coach Frank Martin. Coach, good morning to you. How you doing?
Doing great, Jay. It's a little gloomy out there today, man. A little rain and gray clouds, so we can't go on the lake.
Not great. We are going to get you on the Burnham special pontoon on the Connecticut River at some point. As you can see, I got a little sun this past weekend. Are you water ready?
You don't have to ever worry. I can be in a 3-piece suit, double-breasted, a baby shower. I mean, you name it. If I get a call about going on the water, everything's other than winning a basketball game, everything else getting put to the side, and I'm going on the water.
We're going to talk on this episode. We're going to have our first guest. He's Mike Mannix. He'll join us in a little bit. He's the head coach of Wilbraham and Munson, also the assistant director of athletics there, one of the top prep schools in the region. And also, he is the head coach of the Commonwealth TBT team, which is being put together at the end of July. The TBT tournament, for those that don't know, is really an open tournament for teams to come together and have a chance to win $1 million in the NCAA bracket format, so to speak. So, Coach, first of all, just curious, the TBT's been out now probably over half decade, maybe longer. What are your thoughts on just it as an event? And who would your TBT team be in terms of alumni that you've had play for you?
Oh, wow. That's a hard one. Well, first of all, big shout out to Pat McWilliams, he kind of behind the scenes made sure that this can happen. And Pat is as big a supporter of UMass basketball as there is, and he's one of those guys that puts his money where his mouth's at, and that's pun intended. I mean, it's unbelievable the commitment that he's made to help us grow basketball and work to make us relevant again. But it's I think the TBT was a great idea. Whoever came up with it. It's a time of year where there's no basketball. There's really not a lot of sports on TV at that time of year other than baseball. And no knock on baseball, because as you know, I'm a big baseball guy. So I'm not one of those diminish baseball's boring and who cares, who watches. Are you kidding me? It doesn't get better sitting at a ballpark and watching a ball game. But it's a great time of year to have something else on TV. And they came up with this idea, and unreal. Mike is as good a organizer / promoter, builder as we have. He's obviously a proud UMass alum. Absolutely loves the school, loves the Commonwealth, loves what it represents. And so him and Pat have joined forces and got some great players, and I'm excited to watch them. I'm hoping to be at their practices, and we're going to host them. We're going to do some things for them while they're here, and so it should be a fun time, and obviously rooting for them. Now, who's going to be on my team?
Yes.
Is this all inclusive? Like,
I'm giving you 6 guys that played for you in your history. Here we go.
Wow, you put me on the spot here. I've been fortunate to be around so many. All right, so I'll do this. I'm not going to include guys that are presently in the NBA.
Okay.
Okay, so they're out. So let's go Michael Beasley. You can't go anywhere without putting him on there. Bill Henry Walker. It's, he back when he was young, everyone called him Bill, but his name's Henry Walker. Sindarius Thornwell.
Oh, yeah.
We're going with non-NBA guys. Mike Kotsar. What we need there? We need a shooter.
1, 2, 3, 4. You got 2 more.
I got 2 more. And we're just going with college guys, correct?
Who else you got? The high school guys you coached?
Well, I mean, heck, Haslam just retired as of yesterday. So, I mean,
That's it. We'll put him on there.
yeah, he's not bad. Oh, man. You put me on the spot. Denny Clemente.
Okay.
I mean, that's my guy, man. So we got one more non-NBA guy. Oh man, it's you got me thinking here.
Yeah, someone's gonna be
I'll tell you what. Let's go with a recent one. We need a shooter on that team.
Okay. All right.
Eric Stevenson, who actually played at West Virginia this past year. How about that?
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's fun. I mean, that's got to be fun to craft the team. And, you look at, we'll talk with Mike about this, about the alums that are on this Commonwealth TBT team. I mean, just since I've been here, you've got Pipkins, you've got guys that really have stood out and have played professionally for a long time. Chaz Williams has been back here. I'm excited to see what those guys can do, and they don't have a lot of time to gel, coach. They're going to be here July 20th to the 22nd, and then it's right on to playing games. So as a coach, how do you get those guys on the same page so quickly?
Hard, but that's why you got to coach older guys, because older guys have a better understanding of structure. So you can throw in some simple structure in there, because at the end of the day, there's got to be some kind of structure, and then you grow as you're playing games. That's the
like on the fly. You're just
that's the NBA model. That's why the old teams in the NBA do well and the young teams lose, because they their camp is pretty much 7 days now in the NBA, and then they got to utilize the first 2.5, 3 months of the season to grow as a team, utilizing the games, because they practice very little. And the old teams develop who they are, and they grow in their structure during that time period. And because of their professionalism and their attention to detail through their minds, and they're able to win games while they're growing. And then you see the Miami Heat, the Denver Nuggets, Boston Celtics, the teams that have experience and that grow in those departments make runs in the playoffs. And that's kind of the way it works. It's no surprise. But I love the TBT, man. But the hardest thing to manage, I would think, if I were put in that environment, is you're dealing with guys that are probably playing on every team they're on, and there's money at the end of the rainbow.
Yep.
But there's only money for the winners.
Yep.
And getting guys that are starters on other professional teams that they play for, to accept a different role, because those guys, when they're pros, are very confident. Like I just told our team the other day, PJ Tucker, everyone makes a big deal about the NBA. He stands in a corner. He's a 3-and-D guy, blah, 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 blah. When PJ Tucker was 23 years old, PJ Tucker would come off a ball screen. He'd shoot threes. He'd post up. He'd play off the bounce. He ISO. He rebounded. Like PJ Tucker was a monster when he was at Texas, doing everything. He didn't stand in a corner and shoot threes, but he became that as time goes on, because that's what they need him to do, is getting guys to sacrifice who they are in a short window, and they're not getting paid to sacrifice.
Yeah,
they're going to make money if they win, and so. When you're a confident pro and there's money at the end of the rainbow, but only if you win, you want to be on the court because you want that responsibility. You believe that you're the guy that can help the team win. And I would think that'd be the hardest thing to manage.
We'll talk about this team in depth with the coach of it all, Mike Mannix. And before we do, Coach, I wanted to get your insight as to, what's going on here at the Champion Center. I was able to take in one of your sessions yesterday. Give us some intel, not to give away state secrets, but as it is right now, you've got kind of two factions of groups broken up. How are you running this summer session, and who's doing what when?
Yeah, the first 2 weeks we've been a little vanilla, for lack of better words, but that's okay. I'm a big believer that you never get bored with the fundamentals of the game, and if you do, you're not a good player. So we a lot of footwork, a lot of just simplicity of your feet, the ball, passing, dribbling, shooting. You got to have that. You can run all the great plays in the world, and if you can't dribble, pass, and shoot, your footwork is bad. You're no good. So we've been doing that. We expect 3 guys that are not here yet to be in the next 6 to 7 days. So then once we get everyone here, we'll become a little bit more complex with what we're doing on our team day, which is Wednesdays. And then eventually we'll get to the 10 practices that we're going to utilize to go overseas, on our foreign trip. So it's but for right now, that's what we've been doing. High energy. I mean, you sat there, Jay. I'm not into the compare game. I'm not into the, well, this team does that. Last year's didn't do this. That's irrelevant. Every team is different. The one thing that's fun about this team right now is that I don't have to talk, so there can be instruction. Those guys are out there coaching each other, and they're talking. There's an energy, and it's not coming from just 1 or 2 guys. It's coming from every guy on the court. Without it, you can't be successful. And I live by a saying that the season reveals the truth. And because if if you're in that gym every day with somebody and you're living with them, you only find out who we all are in the season. And the season reveals the truth. And sometimes we like the truth, sometimes we don't like the truth. And that's those are the secrets that exist behind the locker room, walls that don't ever need to be made public. But I'm really excited with what we got right now.
Well, let me ask you this: does it ever get to the point, because you're recruiting, a lot of times freshmen, you do have freshmen incoming. That's not the case anymore for a lot of teams through the transfer portal nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell, I think, when you're scouting a younger player in high school or prep school, what they are against competition, right? You're always trying to size them up against the better competition. Does it get to the point where you have a guy come in as a true freshman and you're like, whoa, this guy is better than we had thought based on just seeing him in the facility?
Yeah, that happens. I mean, we were just talking about TBT. I wasn't the lead recruiter on Michael Beasley, but I saw Mike play, I don't know, 100 times in high school, and I knew he was good. And when we finished our first practice, I went back in the locker room. I said, oh my God, this dude is really good. And, when he walked off the court for his first career game and he walks by me, he says, I got you. And it's my first career game as a head coach, and he's got 36 points, 24 rebounds. I mean, it's like, wow. It's
he did get you.
Oh my God. It's but no, yeah, that's the whole deal. And I mean, I'm like Sawyer Mayhew. Let's pick on him.
True freshman.
Okay,
Yeah.
He's a true freshman. So recruiting him at this time last year and last fall, he could run, he can jump, has basketball instincts. When he shot a line drive. And, guys that shoot line drives worry me because it's hard for that ball doesn't go in like in baseball. Guys that hit 300 are valuable because that's viewed as success. On basketball, guys that shoot 48, 50%, guys that shoot jump shots at 42, 43%, those guys are real valuable. But line drive shooters the ball don't go in as consistently as it needs to. And we spoke to him about that. He's changed his whole shot. Like from last summer to right now, like his ball has an arc on it. It's got trajectory. It's soft. So he's a listener. He accepted coaching. Some guys his age, his peers, as soon as you say something to them about mechanics or what, they get insulted. They think that, so you don't think I can shoot? I said, that's not what I said. I'm trying to help you become a better shooter. With Sawyer, there's never a negative connotation to the instruction. It was listen, and obviously he worked on it. And now he's doing. I mean, you sat there. He's doing 3-point shooting drills, and he's shooting the ball at a high clip in drills. But it's a consistent release point. It's a consistent trajectory of the basketball. It's not that line drive anymore. So now we have to get him to understand and be at peace with shooting those when we start creating structure, when it's a competitive environment. The biggest difference is when it gets real. I mean, it's fast and there's people playing defense. We usually go to our old habits. We'll see with him what happens when we start doing 4-on-4 and 5-on-5 stuff. But I'm just using that as an example. Like, he showed up, he shoots it a lot better than I thought he was going to shoot it. And that's a credit to him for accepting instruction.
Yeah, I think most human beings can relate on doing something a comfortable way and then trying to make it better, but you do fall back on that. Well, this is kind of the way that I'm used to doing it. And it's easy to regress back to what feels comfortable.
It's we're creatures of our habits. And that's that Jay, so let's talk about all this load management and all this other stuff that you hear in today's day and age. Okay, LeBron James now over the last couple of years, more because of injury, has missed some games.
Mm-hmm.
Did Michael Jordan ever miss games? When Bird, before he hurt his back, did he ever miss games?
I don't think so. No.
They play every day. The great ones play every day. That's why they're in shape. That's they take care of their bodies and they're in the weight room. Look at the real pros, the guys that get better throughout their careers. If you look at their bodies when they're rookies and you look at their bodies when they're 10-year vets, completely different.
Yeah.
And that's you create that through habits. You know who gets tired? You know who needs load management? The guys that sit on a couch or hang out all night and don't take care of their bodies and don't work. Then those guys need load management because they're used to the habit of not exerting stress on their bodies and their minds. And so we have, and that's the hardest thing to manage with young kids. And in this moment that we're in right now, very few want to work other than when they're made to work. Too many people want the reward without putting in the work. And if you don't have the drive to work on your own, if you only want to work, let's say I used to work at a bank, so let's use a bank as an example. If your office hours are 9 to 5 and you show up to work at 8:59 and you're the first one at the time clock at 5 o'clock, well, don't complain when you never get a promotion. It's simple as that. And don't complain when you show up late to work twice and you're the one that gets terminated because you're obviously not committed to helping the bank grow. But that's some people like that, some people don't. That's their prerogative, but that's the reality of creating habits.
We could probably do a whole separate podcast on that thought, right? So why don't we put a pin on that, because we do have Coach Mannix waiting here in the Zoom room, and so he's going to join us now. As I mentioned, he's head coach prep basketball, Wilbraham and Munson, assistant director of athletics there, former member of Drexel's staff with UMass great Bruiser Flint. He's also the host of the Coaching Ladder on Twitter Spaces. Coach, thanks for letting us ambush you here on the Zoom. How you doing? He's also a UMass alum, I should mention that. Coach Mannix joins us now on the Just Being Frank podcast. Coach, how you doing?
I'm great. Morning, Jay. Morning, Coach. I'm trying to figure out, Jay, why you're in a rush to get him on the show. He ain't got nothing to do right now. It's summertime, man. Other students are gone. He did
I changed the time. I changed the time on him like 4 times, so that's why I felt bad. Yeah, no doubt. So Coach, we're going to talk about the Commonwealth TBT, but why don't you give everybody a little background as to who you are and how you got into coaching and your path that led you to Wilbraham at Munson.
Sure. So like you said there at the tail end, UMass grad. Technically 2002, but stayed for an extra semester because I liked it so much. Needed a couple extra credits in the fall of 02. But coaching came up, I guess, a little bit by accident. I came in, really it was a combination of things. So I had a youth coach at the Holyoke YMCA. It was really a group of guys that were, anywhere from like 15 to 20 years older than me. And two guys in particular, both Western Massachusetts guys, one by the name of Jim Hart, another one by the name of David O'Connell. They coached me at the YMCA, really showed me what it was to coach and, just kind of help out a community organization like that. So that started to get me interested in coaching a little bit. And then where I got bit by the basketball coaching bug was when I was a freshman at UMass and I had some work study money that I needed to earn. And I had a friend, I should say my father had a friend that knew Brian Gorman, who worked in the UMass basketball office for Ron Gerlifson, Coach Cal, and then Bruiser Flint. And so I touched base with Brian Gorman. It was early in my freshman year. And he said, come on in. We need help sticking labels on VHS tapes.
Were you the best label sticker in the nation?
I was okay. Well, maybe in the office. So that got me involved with UMass basketball. That just in a nutshell right there. I started going to practices, got to know Bruiser a little bit more and more, as time went by. Struck up a great relationship with Jeff Arnold and Mike Connors, who were on the coaching staffs. And then I got into high school coaching while I was still a student at UMass. So I was coaching some public school ball. Did a little bit of AAU coaching. And then graduate college, 02, 03 in that time frame, and got an internship with the Indiana Pacers. That's when I got really good at doing labels on VHS. Scraping them off, putting them on. We had DVDs. It was like a brand new thing. It was like rocket science. It was crazy. Yeah. That was 03, 04. Worked for Rick Carlisle, Chad Forcier, Dan Burke, Mike Brown was the coaching staff. Ron Rothstein, I think a URI legend, Ron Rothstein. And then really quick, Division II job in the state of New Mexico. Division I job. Coach Flint Brew brought me back to Drexel. And then in 09, found my way back to Western Massachusetts in Wilbraham and Munson.
Coach Martin.
Jay. Jay.
Yes.
Now you understand why you show up to work at 8:59 for a 9 o'clock shift and you're the first one out at 5 o'clock. When you're late to work twice, you're the first one terminated. That's what Mike just described. It's what it's all about. And, it's about, think about that. Here's a Western Mass guy that's tied into some of the great people in our business, and Jeff Arnold, Mike Connors, Bruiser, Cal, the UMass royalty. And he ends up at a Division II school in New Mexico because he's chasing a coaching career. Hey, Mike, I don't get into people's personal business and private conversations. So I don't want to do it to you here in a public setting. But curious, you willing to share how much money you made when you moved to New Mexico?
Well, yeah, I can. Yeah, I mean that's sometimes those badges that we wear, though, right, Coach? So
yeah, but the young people that we coach, they need to understand that because I just told Jay before you came on, they all want that bag. They don't comprehend.
My bag was real small. My bag was real small.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you this: I went to work for the Pacers, and it was an internship, right? But it was a bit of an anomaly for an internship because there was no credits involved. I had already graduated from school, and I wasn't going back. So the Pacers, when I went out there, they said, "This pays nothing." And I was working as a paraprofessional at a public high school for a couple weeks, and then had a nighttime job at my friend's grocery store, and saved up enough money in a couple months to go out to Indiana. And what they ended up saying was, look, we need a coach's cam on the game. So if you can run the coach's cam in Conseco Fieldhouse, then we'll pay you $50 a game. But you only can do 2 a month, maybe 3. So I was getting about, max $150 a month. I'll share this really crazy story with you. I go into Indiana, move to Indiana. Coach Carlisle was the head coach. There was no fooling around. Like, you better be ready to work. And I found a really cheap place to live with my roommate, who was also working for the Pacers. And for the first couple days, we didn't have heat. And it's like late September in the Midwest.
Not good.
Oh, not good, Jay. So we moved out. Now we didn't have a place. We lived in Conseco Fieldhouse for a week.
Wow.
Before they kicked us out. And I'll never forget Dan Burke, who was just on Doc Rivers' staff in Philly. He came into the video room one day and he was like, "What time did you leave yesterday?" And I said, "I don't know, about 7, 8 o'clock at night." He said, "No." He said, "The security office in Conseco, monitors all the stuff." He said, "They don't have you leaving the building."
You're just a hard worker. That's it.
Oh, man. So he actually said to me, "I got you a couple more nights." He's like, "Where in the heck are you sleeping?" I said, "In the players' lounge." But we were waking up before the cleaning crew came in at 5 a.m. So we'd have to set our alarm for 4:30 in the morning, pretend like we were still there from working the night before. But made almost no money in Indiana. And then in New Mexico, I lived in a dorm room and made $10,000.
I brought it up on purpose, Jay, because you obviously are not chasing, that's not the right word, but in your journey, I guarantee you've had.
Well, I'll tell you this, because you were talking about kids wanting this success right away, and I see it all the time. I bet kids that come to me, students that we've actually placed quite a few in the profession of broadcasting, but there's kids that want to do it and they want to get right on TV and be ESPN. Saying, well, no, you have to start here and you have to slowly work your way up. And we want to share. My first internship was unpaid. And 1 year in Hagerstown, Maryland, I had just gotten this internship. I was really proud of it. My dad came down to see me, and part of the job was rolling hot dogs and selling nachos in the concession stand. And I'll never forget the look on his face when he came down and looked me in the eye, saw me behind the concession stand. I think he was thinking, what am I paying for you to go to college? Because that's what I was just running. I was running hot dogs, man.
Hey, I'm a little older than both of you guys, and yeah, that's sad. When as a person you start telling everyone I'm older than you, that like I go home, I'm like, God, dog, is there anyone older than me anymore? I mean, holy cow! But we've all learned. It's these stories that I enjoy when I get around people that are in a profession. It doesn't have to be in coaching, in a profession. And it's what I talk to players now. I used to, Mike, which is something I want to ask you here in a minute. It's something that I used to never speak to players about because all these things we're talking about, we learned. We didn't like show up and say we're the first one to ever do this. We learned this from the people that are around us that you work to earn your way through. And now the players, they don't share common stories about the journey. They want to share common stories about the rewards. And so they omit the journey, and the journey is what keeps us true and humble to who we are. The journey is what allows us to get out of bed to do it again the next day. It's not the reward. Yeah. If all three of us only showed up to work because of the reward, we all would have thrown in the towel a long time ago. And it's but Mike, what because you in the setting that you're in the high school setting, you take on kids that come from all parts of the country and even foreigners. Where have you seen this change the most? Because you've been there for a while. You haven't, once you got to WMA, you've kind of planted your feet in there and you've dug in, and there's a way of what you guys do there, which is what makes things special, is when you can be somewhere and then this is how we do things. Where have you seen it change the most? Not for you, with the 17, 18-year-olds that come through your door. Where are they different now than they were, 5-6 years ago?
Let me interject. Compliance-wise, not allowed to talk about specific players.
No, not individuals.
ahead.
Yes, it's just the mindset of athletes.
Yeah. Disclaimer.
Thank you, Jay.
I think a little bit more difficult now than it was 10 years ago to understand that coaching will come with criticism. Like, I don't mind the saying, there's coaching, then there's criticism, separate the two, but like some coaching is going to be critical. If you take 5 trips down the floor and you give up, your guy gets 5 consecutive offensive rebounds, there's going to be some criticism in there, right? That's just the way it goes. Now you can't directly compare it to having a job because there's age-specific things in there. And so to be fair, not doing that, but at the same time, you referenced showing up to work on time or early. If you show up to a meeting, 5 straight meetings, 10 minutes late, someone should talk to you, and there should be some criticism in there, so you get the point. So I think that's one thing that I find the most is that, the criticism thing sometimes is a little harder to swallow. So that's probably on the challenging side, the negative side. On the positive, I will say that this is probably a 10-year thing, or maybe more, 15 years. The wanting to work on an individual skill set has increased, I think, drastically in the last 15 years. That is overwhelmingly a positive, right? It is like, and we've seen guys come in that might be freshmen or sophomores that are non-shooters, and now because of that culture of individual work, we've seen guys become shooters, over the course of 2, 3, 4 years, which may have not happened 15 years ago when that culture of individual workout and everything wasn't at the level that it is in 2023.
Coach Martin, have you seen a similar trend?
Oh, absolutely. It's I don't say this as a negative. Based, like everyone says, like 18-year-olds, well, what's my role? Your role is to do whatever the hell I tell you to do. That's what your role is. I didn't learn my role from coaches. I learned my role from playing at the park with friends. And you were the young guy on the court. And if you took a bad shot, they take you off the court and you weren't getting back on. If your man beat you, they'd look at you one time and say, don't let that happen again. So you learn your role playing with your peers, not from coaches. And because of what Mike just said, where guys are more driven now for individual skill development. That is a huge positive. Mm-hmm. We have to find balance now on how to connect that work ethic with team, which here, I'll use an example. Anthony Grant. I grew up with him. He's one of my closest friends in the world. Forget basketball. We were high school sophomores together until we graduated from high school together. We coached high school ball together. We all screened and cut because he, who was best player in the city, not just our team, he screened and cut. And when our coach said, Anthony, set a screen for so-and-so, he didn't just screen, he nailed you. So then here comes the, unathletic dude. I wasn't saying, man, let me work on my game. No, you screened and you cut because of that. That drive to get better individually that exists now, it's what I used to do as a high school coach years ago. And that was the biggest separator, I think, that we had down in Miami. And I learned it from the guys before me, that we'd take the whole spring and summer and we'd open our gym and guys would come in there to get better individually, but then we'd make them play. So they learned how to compete with each other. So now here comes your hotshot sophomore, and now Udonis Haslam is your senior, and they're, after doing all the individual work, now they're playing, and that hotshot sophomore takes a bad shot, and Udonis says, hey, yo, don't do that. I don't know if you saw that. I love Mike. I don't know. I watch the NBA in the playoffs. I don't watch it in the regular season. I used to watch it all the time, but like I'm watching the playoffs. No one, like Boston switches because it's what they do, but rarely do they switch a meaningless screen. Rarely in the playoffs. And but the post game, Shaq and Barkley and those guys who are awesome. They were talking about the Celtics because they shot all them threes in the first quarter. I think it was Game 7 against the Heat, and they were 0 for 10, 0 for 11 or something. And Shaq said, I would have come in the huddle and said, hey, if somebody else shoots another three, I'm going to punch you in the face. That's how you learn your role. It's not the coach that's teaching you the role. The coach creates a structure, but you learn those roles from playing in those pickup games. I know Mike, I can't ask him about his team specifically, but I can talk about mine. Last Wednesday, our guys, we had an hour, 20-minute workout. As soon as the workout was over, they all stayed in there and they worked. They played pickup, but they worked on some of the things that we were talking about in the preparation. I got excited about that. I can't watch the pickup, but I know my office is right next to the gym, so I can hear the balls bouncing. I can hear the yelling, the cutting, the sneakers. And I was excited about that. But to Mike's long answer, because it's the change that I have to learn, because guys will come in the gym one-on-one to work on that skill development religiously. The one thing I wish they did more of was on their own play. So they learn how to coexist with their peers before coaches step on the court.
Coach, let me bring in the Commonwealth angle here. The CommonwealthTBT.com is where supporters can go and help fund the efforts for this TBT team that is going to be led by Coach Mannix here, and some of the UMass greats, Caddy Lillane, Jabari Hines, Dante Clark, Carl Pierre is back, CJ Anderson, Isho, Lawan Pipkins, Williams. Coach, where do you begin with putting together this team, and how do you start, building out concepts?
Well, there's something to be said for guys who haven't played together in the past. We sure are banking on that, right? That there's going to be some pre-existing chemistry there. And in certain combinations, some real understanding of the way another guy plays. And, every guy's gotten better too since they left UMass. And they've developed their games. Certainly the bigs, right? Like you take a Caddy and a Maxey, those guys are going to look a little bit different than they did, when they were playing at Mullins, specifically to be able to stretch the floor, probably a little bit more than they did when they were at Mullins. But to your point, I think what we have to do is right away get an understanding of kind of the balance that we need on the floor, and finding that balance of, who's going to be able to protect the paint a little bit, who's going to be able to rebound the ball. We do have to figure out some defensive things, how much switching there is, some ball screen coverage. But, we're going to really just hit on the fundamental stuff really quick. I think, in the first day and a half of practice, put in some offensive things and then kind of feel it out from there. And then the last 2 or 3 practices in that 3-day stretch, probably the last 2 practices, get specific with some really simple offensive things. And then we play.
So, not much time.
Not much time, but that's where they come back to the chemistry and having these guys have pre-existing relationships. I can tell you that our group chat's already awesome. We're having some conversations about jersey numbers right now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, that's like the summer. we all get along in the summer. Now, when that ball goes up, now it gets a little different. Now,
That's right.
It gets the conversations get a little interesting. But that's the fun. That's the fun of the relationship before the games is what holds everyone together. So that's awesome. Man.
That's I hope and I think that we can ask them to go back into their memory banks a little bit and talk about like what was the A10 tournament like?
Yeah,
because that's a winner go home type of situation. Yeah. So I think we can all go back to our experiences in playing in conference tournaments and use that for our sense of urgency, right? Because there is no tomorrow with TBT. I coached in it last year, and it's, you win one game, great, that's over with. There's not even the 24 hours to celebrate. You don't even get that. You get like the van ride back to the hotel, and you want everybody to then kind of relax and rest. But then as coaches, you're right back at it because the game that was playing either before or after you, that's who you're playing the next day.
We mentioned Patrick McWilliams really spearheading this effort. The Commonwealth TBT.com is the website. I should also mention Freddie Riley and Terrell Vincent have been added to that roster as well. So you got some pieces here, Coach. I'm really excited to see, how these guys, some of the guys that, it was Chaz Williams here who really made a significant impact, not only at UMass, but in Western Massachusetts. He still is an active presence here. And then kind of the replacement for Chaz down the line was like Lawan Pipkins. So you've got these two guys that maybe similar skill set. Can they be on the court at the same time? What's the starting five look like? All right, let's put you on the spot.
Well, we're not going to get into the starting five right now. I can guarantee you.
Upset some people in that group chat.
Yeah, because if I start talking about the starting five, I won't be the head coach on June 14th. So I will tell you this, though, and Coach, you'll appreciate this, and Jay, of course, you'll appreciate it. But our Zoom or FaceTime call that we had with Pip when we talked to him about being on the team, it started with a couple text messages. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Javorn Farrell and his role in communicating with these guys first and foremost, and then bringing them into the mix because Jay has been awesome. And so he puts us all together on a call, and Pip was, no disrespect to the other guys, but Pip was probably the coolest call for me to be a part of as a coach because Pip, we started talking about role a little bit. And we already told him, look, Chaz is already on the team. This guy, that guy's on the team. And one of the very first things out of his mouth was, I'm just excited to play with these guys that I met and heard about. Right. And that's awesome. Yeah. And it was as genuine as could be. Right. And so to have that phone call, that video call with him, and for him to just be like, man, I hope we can win it. I'm excited to play with these guys. And in his mind, he's a smart guy. So he's also going, man, I could be the part of the core of this team because of my age for a really long time. Yeah. You're talking about a guy that's like in his mid-20s, right? So he could play on this team for 10 to 12 years if we keep going, But we've got a lot of positive things going on. And again, working with Javor has been great. And Pat is just like A++ when it comes to planning and the support. And Pat's positivity and enthusiasm in a very realistic way is something as a coach that I appreciate. You would want a general manager or the owner of a team to be like Pat McWilliams, where it's like, what do you need?
Yeah.
Tell me why you need it. And here's a vision that I have as well. And we talk. And it is awesome. Absolutely awesome to work with Pat.
You bring up Pat, man, and it's easy to see because, talk about securing the bag. He's been fortunate to secure a bag. But it's the young people just see the bag. His journey to get to where he's at, there's a reason he's as successful as he is right now. Because of what you just said. His organization, his planning, his enthusiasm, his positivity. that's what's attracted me to him. I didn't know Pat when I got here last year. But what's attracted me to develop a relationship with him, it's not his money. I know a lot of people, because of the job I've had, I've been fortunate to be around a lot of folks who make a lot of money. The majority of them, I got nothing in common with. I got no interest in having conversations with them. That's sad to say, but it's true. With Pat, I'm like, I want to like migrate to him, because there's a positivity and an energy and a understanding of structure of making things grow and having the patience for it to grow. That's fun to be around. And so Jay, when I heard Pat was behind the scenes, and I'm gonna toot his horn a little bit, and Mike was gonna lead the charge, I was like, this team got a chance, because the players that come in, they're going to be around their enthusiasm for UMass, their enthusiasm for unity, for being unselfish. That it's going to be fun.
And I think, let me just put a bow on that, because for years the TBT has been out there, and at first it was, 5-7 guys would get together and try to win $1 million, and then it started to become this. Hey, our universities are putting up alumni. And I think when that started taking the turn 4 or 5 years ago, a lot of UMass people said, well, where's our team? Huh? We have such a proud basketball tradition. Where is it? And it takes people like Pat, like yourself, Coach, like Javorn, to push that boulder up the hill. And it's a lot of work. There's a lot of money that gets invested too, in terms of travel and guys taking time and, meals. I mean, all these things pile up. And so I think, just from the UMass fan base perspective, it's really exciting to see what you guys have done. And hopefully there's a couple of wins in there once the ball tips up on July 24th.
Yeah, we hope so.
So it goes July 20th to 22nd. You guys are here at the Champion Center, and then off to Syracuse for the regionals.
That's right. Yeah, we do have to officially wait for the bracket show that TBT does. So we're not like 100% locked in sure of Syracuse. That's what we're hoping for. And of course, that's what we think makes sense. So.
Hey, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Can we get Mike to add a little humor to the show today? Jay, you know me. And Mike knows me too. Like, everyone thinks I'm like this serious, mean, nasty. Like, there's nothing better than stories, jokes, and laughing. Can we loosen this up a little bit?
At it. Come on.
Hey, Mike, you got to give me a good Bruiser Flint story.
Oh boy.
Because Brew is one of the most genuine, best human beings in this business, and we can't do a UMass show, and it's just like people say stories about me or like hugs or whatever. There's an R rating to some of the stuff that takes place, and it's all good stuff, but just stuff that you don't repeat publicly. But there's also real good stories that you can share. There's got to be one. There's got to be a simple Brew story that you keep in your back pocket to make people laugh when you're around Brew, especially his guys.
Probably not one specific day and time of this, but I can remember sitting down in the first staff meeting when I joined the Drexel staff. It was summer of 2006, and we're just talking as a staff, and it felt like I never left those guys. That was a really cool thing to be able to do that.
Hey, that was a brotherhood.
That was
guys. That was the guys was real.
For me, actually, it was like going to work for all of my uncles, though.
Wow.
Because of the age separation, truly, with about a 15-year or so difference probably between me and all those guys. But I can remember being in the first staff meeting and Bruce saying to me, just thinking, he's something to the like of, just thinking ahead, Mike. He's like, you're gonna sit on the first seat in the bench, and you're gonna keep track of the other 5 guys that are out there for the other team. So we always have our matchups when we come in and out of timeouts. That was my main job during the game. And I thought to myself, okay, no problem. And then he said, we had a couple issues there at times. Drexel had a little facility issue with knowing who was subbing in and subbing out. But that's another story. But the real story was then him saying to me, and you got to sometimes help me get back in the coach's box, something to that effect. There hasn't been a coach's box that's been painted that has been able to hold Bruiser Flint inside it. So, I watched him for years when I was at UMass, right? But never really dawned on me. Wow. He wasn't kidding. He was a force in the out of the coach's box.
Did restraint, like grab him and pull him back?
Well, it was a lot of times it was by the back of his pants and his waist and belt. But you had to be careful because Coach Martin knows this. The belts were not cheap. This wasn't a belt that you would get at Old Navy.
Not a Target belt, no.
This was not a reversible Target belt. This was something that it was not in my tax bracket. So, but when he was at his most passionate, if I grabbed him back there, sometimes he would challenge that, me grabbing him. And so our joke was, I was kind of like back in the day, I said, I'd be like Pedro Martinez after a 9-inning game. I got to ice down after the game. And he'd give me a ride home sometimes after the game because I lived up the street from Drexel, and we'd be walking to the car. If we won and everybody was in a good mood, sometimes I'd give him one of these, just kind of like, oof, might need the day off tomorrow, boss. It's a rough day out there.
Hey, Mike, we played them when I was in South Carolina. We played Drexel, and I'm up and I'm coaching my team, and I'm looking on the court, and it was a free throw situation. And I'm like, who the hell's that on the court? He was in the jump circle talking to his point guard.
But I'll tell you this one too, Coach. We're at Hofstra. We're at Hofstra in one heck of a CAA battle. And he picks up a tech in the first half. And things are not going well for us. And Jeff has the huddle. And Brew is pacing the sideline. And he is trying to stay parallel to the official that gave him the technical foul. And he's having a loud, one-sided only conversation with the official. And I have to I'm mirroring him to try to block him. And I say to that day, that was probably my most successful day on a sideline that he didn't get ejected. So, but that is my guy. And
the best, man.
He's
great.
Absolutely one of the best. Yep.
All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. Coach Mannix, thanks so much for taking the time. And we'll see you here on campus July 20th for the TBT practices. Good luck.
Yeah, we're excited. Thanks, Jay, for having me on. Coach, thanks.
Hey, Mike, real quick before I let you go, how many do you keep track how many guys in your time at WMA have gone on to college and play basketball?
I actually don't have a total. Someone did ask me the other day how many guys we would have next year playing college basketball. And I think next season it's like 18 or so.
That's
over
awesome.
time.
That's awesome.
Between varying levels.
Yeah.
All guys that are having a lot of success and enjoying where they are. So
that's a credit to you and that school, man. It's young people are finding success, and that's what it's all about.
Well,
appreciate you, Jay.
Enjoy working with them and enjoy being with you guys here today. This has been fun.
Can't wait to see it. He's just being frank. This has been our second podcast. You can support the team at thecommonwealthtbt.com. Till next week. Thanks, guys.